Yo, what's good? Easy Breeze Ebe here, and this is my film review to The Exorcist. Now, I had just watched the movie. So that was my little clips to my reaction video. If you haven't seen it, you can click here. Yeah, here. If you haven't been here before, welcome. Go ahead, hit the like and subscribe button. Any little thing counts. Small channel, you know. And if you have been here before, welcome back, yo. So there are particular things I want to talk about right after watching this movie. And as I usually do, I put timestamps down below. So if you don't want to watch the full video, there are certain sections where I'm talking about certain things. And yeah, go ahead and check that out in the description or in the time scroll bar thing. And you can skip ahead to whichever parts. If not, you're welcome to watch the whole video. It'll be really cool. I'd love to hear your thoughts as well on anything. Anyway, so the first thing I want to talk about is my immediate reaction as a horror film. My thoughts are, there are definitely some scary parts, and it's not just because of the jump scares. The only thing I had experienced or knew about in this movie was the head twisting. That's really all I knew. And I think it's because I had, like I mentioned in the first video, I think they made a spoof of it in like Scary Movie, one of the Scary Movie movies. And I thought that the stairs part, that was crazy, where she was like suddenly running down the stairs on her back or whatever. I don't even really remember how it was, but that was crazy. The throwing up was crazy because like he was like asking, what is my mother's maiden name, I think, and she was, instead of answering, she just like went brah. So yeah, a lot of cool parts like that. And I thought overall, as a scary movie, I thought it was really good. And particularly the dream sequence, right when his mom died and he's like losing his faith, he actually, I think, dreamed of the mom, and he actually dreamed of the demon. I think the demon's like face, his real face, was like in that dream for a split second. So that sequence, for whatever reason, it was very like Kubrick-esque in a way that it just made you feel uneasy. The dream-like quality of it was super weird, and it was very unsettling. And I kind of thought that was the most sort of visceral reaction I had, in not jump scare wise or scare wise, but like in terms of just the narrative. And I thought that was very, very high quality moment. So kudos on that. I think this is based on a book. I'm not sure. I think it is, but yeah, kudos on that. That was cool. So I don't know who the director is. I should shout him out, but I'm already talking, so I'll put the name down there. But I thought the direction was good. I can't really compare it to other things. I guess Halloween, but that's more of like a slasher type film, not really a supernatural. I guess I don't know how we categorize those things, but in terms of a horror, actually, you know, I gotta say, I think this movie is scarier than Halloween. Halloween, when I saw it with people, so maybe that's it. But also like the fact that when you're young, you see a lot of slasher movies, the shitty ones, but that's still fun to watch. And Halloween seems sort of like a precursor that's serious, similar to this one being like a precursor to all the Exorcist and Conjuring movies and stuff like that. But the strong suit of this movie, and I think that's what makes it a good film, not just a good horror film, is character, particularly Damian, I think played by Jason Miller. So I think on a scariness level, before I move on to the characters, good. I mean, you can see it in my reaction video. It wasn't like, you know what, it's like, I'm glad that it wasn't one of those movies where I'm just like, okay, I hope there's no jump scare, you know, like just sort of anticipating a jump scare. You're never anticipating a jump scare here because you're always in the movie, right? So That's what sort of makes a horror film actually good, when they're not depending on those cheap shots. So I love that fact about it, and it makes every jump scare even crazier than when you're expecting it. You can sort of prepare for it. So I thought this was great, and I can see why this is a big hit, and it's sort of timeless. So I want to start with the main character, and who I think the main character is. It's got to be Damian. He had a full arc, whereas the mom, I forgot the mom's name, but she's sort of just the mom the whole movie. She doesn't really have an arc. She loved her daughter in the beginning. She loves her daughter at the end. Whether she believed or didn't believe in psychiatry or exorcism doesn't really matter. So I'm not going to talk about her too much. I want to focus on Damian and Merrin, but first Damian. So first of all, Jason Miller. I made a comment during the movie. I said, man, this guy is a good actor, because his face, even though it's not moving, it was when he's in the front of the church. He was about to have a sermon, I think, and his face just looked so conflicted. I think it was when his mom just died, or his mom was just in the hospital, and he emotes perfectly. Like he and it was like that throughout the whole movie. When, especially in the final act, in the room, where he's trying to keep his cool, trying to stay strong, but then the demon mentions the mom, and he couldn't handle it. He had to step out. And then he makes a final decision of, you know what, I'm gonna do everything I can to save this girl. Whether it's because he doesn't want to be responsible for another death, because mom died, Merrin died. I don't know if he went in that room consciously thinking he could die. I guess it's a possibility, since Merrin just died, and we don't really know how Merrin died. He was sick since the beginning of the movie, so he might have just died because it was too much stress, not particularly because the demon killed him. But I guess it's the demon's fault anyway. Even his death, it was like he jumped out the window himself. But that decision to go in that room was a big one. It showed like a full sort of character development. It was the right decision, which is weird that it's a tragic ending for him, because usually with tragic endings, there is a decision made where it's sort of poetic justice. He has to sort of pay for his crimes, so to speak. And I don't see that here from him. Maybe I missed it. What his big, why is this a big consequence? Like, I was hoping he survived. It seems like he made the right decision to sacrifice his own life, but I guess a sacrifice is only a sacrifice if he dies for it. So it makes him commendable, for sure. And also, I guess, going with the theme of faith, he was the one struggling with faith throughout the whole movie. He's a psychiatrist, so he's medically trained, and he's a man of the cloth, so he has to keep his faith. So that dichotomy of medicine and faith, now we'll see that again. I'll talk about that in a bit, but that was also within him. And he lost his face after his mom died. In the beginning, he was wearing his I think you call it a frock. I don't know. He's wearing his priest suit and his collar, and he took it off. The collar comes off first, and eventually he's back to his Georgetown outfit. And eventually, right at the end, right at Act 5, he's back on it. Right when he decides to go to the Catholic Church, he's back on. He's wearing his costume again, and he believes again. So that whole swing of believe, didn't believe, then reconciliation, that of like he believes again. That arc was there for him. So which makes him the main character in my eyes, and Jason Miller did a tremendous job. Commend him. Not a lot of lines from him, actually. He's pretty a stoic character, so to be able to do all of that with very sort of quietly, he speaks quietly, using a lot of emotion. Great. Yeah. Also, I know I mentioned this earlier, but yeah, he dies at the end. Damian dies at the end, and it sucks because I was hoping that he wouldn't. I really liked him as a character. I connected with him well. So him having to die in the movie, I guess, makes the impact much more stronger. And I get that creative decision. But especially when the movies we see now, exorcism and supernatural movies, someone always makes it. And in this case, someone did make it. The girl made it, right? But she wasn't the protagonist, she was the antagonist. So it's cool. Cool. Hey guys, this is me from the edit. I just wanted to add some things that I think I missed after I looked some things up. Jason Miller, the lead actor, it seems like this is the first movie he was in, and he's not even like an actor. I mean, he's an actor, but he's a playwright. Not just any playwright, he won the Pulitzer Prize for a play called, and I'm looking at here, That Championship Season. It seems like he had some acting training from school, from university. So it wasn't like this is first time acting or anything, probably on the stage, but wow. So, I never would have guessed in a million years. He seemed so natural as an actor. I didn't think that like this was his first movie, it was just crazy. Max von Sydow, we see him in Act 1, we see him in Act 5. We see him in Iraq, right? And of course, Max von Sydow, is, from what I hear, he's a legendary actor, so he's not gonna miss. It was weird, I couldn't really tell if it was him at the beginning because he was wearing makeup to make him old. And he looked like he was old, like he was when he was old in Star Wars. So I was a bit confused. Like, how old was he in Star Wars? Like 120? But anyway, at the end, you figure out it's makeup. But with him, we see him in Iraq, and he's like this weird. These priests have like 3 occupations. He's an archaeologist and a priest, apparently. And like he was doing an excavation, an ancient site, and he sees the statue of the demon. And he also finds an artifact you think is from a long time ago, but it's actually the Saint Joseph artifact. I must have missed it in the movie if he gave that to Jason Miller at some point in the movie. But if he didn't, that's a weird thing because he found it in Iraq and then Jason Miller had it at the end. But if he did give it to Jason Miller, I don't remember that, if that happened. Then that's a nice touch. It kind of goes, it goes back to the mom, I think, at the end. And I want to bring this point back later as well, is the whole they played the azan, which is the Muslim call to prayer, in the beginning of the movie, and then when right before they fade out and they zoom out or pan out or whatever the terminology is, and they show that room where the possession happened, right before the end credits, they play the call to prayer again. So I want to talk about that in a second, but back to Max von Sydow. He did well. I think he was sort of, he doesn't really have an arc. It was very short. Like he sort of had a job to do, and he did it, and he played his character very well. But he I don't want to say he failed because you needed him to solve the problem, but he did unfortunately die in the movie as well. Another character I thought was interesting was the detective. The detective who, actually at a couple points I thought he was gonna die. For no reason. I was just in fear of his life for some reason. And I thought it was cool that he brought up movies. This would have been a very sort of a shocker type of film back in the 70s. It seems it's still crazy to watch, but it's not the craziest thing we've seen on film this day and age, but back then I imagine it would have been a little bit more shocking to audiences at the time. And he's subtle there to remind you that you guys are watching a movie. Don't freak out. You're watching a movie. Like he's like, hey, you want to go see a movie? Like every time you see a camera in a movie, or you see a television, or you see people watching a movie, or you see people mentioning a movie, the writer and director is actively trying to make you realize that you are watching a movie. Like those things are not coincidental. So it's funny that whenever he does something like that, I thought it was funny, and it's like, yeah, it's just a movie, yeah, so don't freak out too much. So I liked his character for that, and the character actor who plays him, I don't know his name or anything, but he was great, delivered his lines well. I want to give a shout out to the girl who played the girl being possessed. I do want to say that it's kind of, I know this is like the 70s, so it's kind of a little bit jarring when, you know, she's saying all the cuss words and it's not her saying it, because she's a young girl. You don't want her to say those things. But it is funny. It is a bit funny. Like, this young girl has to act like she's swearing, but she has no idea what she's saying. I think that's still her in the makeup. I have to think that, yeah. But it's funny, they're like dubbing her, you know, a lot. So that was kind of funny. So a little bit about mental illness and medicine, which was a heavy theme in the movie, because not only was the mom and the doctors trying to figure out what's wrong with this girl throughout the whole film, and we also see the medical dichotomy within the main character, Damian, as well. But I kind of talked about that a little bit for Damian, so let's focus on the other aspects. You know, I thought it was very neat that, because we live in reality, right? So a lot of this possession, you know, a lot of it turns out to be like Damian mentions, a lot of it turns out to be, you know, something, it's like a mental disorder, you know, bipolarism, or whatever they call it now. I'm sorry. You know, they used to call it split personality, or it's a medical thing, a physiological thing, brain lesions, like the doctor tried to explain, some sort of neurosis, something wrong with her nerves. They tried to give her Ritalin, and a lot of these sort of unexplained, when you get into unexplained territories, when you get into history and you talk about science that people don't really understand, they always fall back on religion, and they fall back on faith, and they fall back on you know, spirituality, and these are sort of the reasons why someone is sick, they're possessed, they're being haunted. So I'm not trying to make a claim whether these things are real or not. I'm just trying to say, like, that's a lot of the explanation. So it was neat that they brought that into this movie, particularly being the Exorcist, the first movie of an exorcism that's popular, at least. They put all of that aside. They sort of, the arc of the mom, her storyline was, she's going through, first, you know, she has to go to this doctor, regular doctor, then specialist, and you're ruling out everything gets ruled out before you go to the priest. And that was a neat thing, and it sort of explains they didn't just go, I'm not sure how Exorcism of Emily Rose, I did see that movie a long time ago. I think in that movie there was none of the doctor stuff, if I'm not mistaken, or she was studying to be a doctor, I don't know, but like, we were in her point of view, so like we were seeing from her point of view these supernatural things. So they didn't like go through all of that trouble of trying to eliminate possible medical problems that she has, because the audience already knows it's a supernatural possession. So they immediately, I think, went to a priest to do the exorcism. Like, they didn't waste any time with all this other stuff, which makes sense, you know, they want to do the same movie as The Exorcist. So I thought that was neat. I thought it was neat to include the medical and mental illness aspect of it, and sort of to tell the audience, like, look, this is a special case. If there's something wrong in your family with someone that you know, don't, figure it out medically first, rule all the possibilities out first. So they were careful in that. Hey guys, again, it's me from the edit. I totally forgot to talk about the special effects and the practical effects. Just quickly then, wow, the makeup was nuts. The infected cuts and lesions, that was crazy. I kind of feel like sometimes it wasn't the girl acting as the demon. I know that they're dubbing a lot of the swear words, but I feel like there's some things that it wasn't, they couldn't have the girl do. I just feel like some things is like that. So especially like the banging, and the girl was banging herself on the bed, like back and forth, and certain things. Of course, all the stunt stuff is not going to be that girl. So with the makeup there, it helps conceal that, but it's also great. The throwing up, how they get to do that projectile stuff, that was really cool. And of course, this has to be special effects. The floating on the bed, and finally also when Karass said, "Come into me," and then like we see the demon go into his body and his face change, and it morphed back into his normal face from the possessed face in a split second. And then we see the mom, like her image show up at the window, like that special effects stuff. I thought that was really cool. This is the early 70s, remember, so the transition from the demon face to the regular face, that was kind of crazy. So yeah, shout out to the special effects team and the practical effects team back then. Really cool. It's like they're magic tricks, man. This is not the time of digital, you know, so we won't really see a lot of that again. And I feel like when digital came about, there's a lot of sort of dependence on CGI and over dependence almost, that they're forgetting all these old cool effects that people have already learned. I think they need to blend more of that stuff into modern movie making, and I think they're starting to do it, you know, especially the big studios like with The Mandalorian and all that. But once they start to do more of that, we'll see sort of where the magic tricks matter again, and it's not just watching like a big animation. Nothing wrong with that, it depends on your budget and everything, but I just think all that the practical stuff is really cool, man. I commend it. Okay, so I did mention that I wanted to talk about a little bit about potential political connotations here, and this goes back to the fact that they played the azan, which is the Muslim call to prayer. In the beginning, they're in Iraq, so it's like it's diegetic. It was diegetic sound, so it's in the story, you know, these people there, and then he uncovers there's a demon, like Max von Sydow. He you know, experiences what do you call it, like a foreshadowing. He sees this demon. This demon's gonna haunt him. We see it at the end. We see the same statue of the same demon, signifying that, you know, it's signifying that this demon originated in the Middle East. And then when right before the fade out happens, we hear the azan again relating the azan to the devil, to the demon, I'm sorry. Sort of like, it's like trying to sort of, not brainwash, but like trying to really, hey guys, like, be careful of the Middle East. Be careful of the Muslim religions, like watch out, they're evil. Like I just thought that was you know, the reason why I say it's political and not sort of, you know, have anything to do with racism or phobia, Islamophobia or anything like that. I don't know who the director and writers are. I know this is based on a book, so I don't know like what they're trying to say here. But the reason I say political is because this is the 70s, and if I'm not mistaken, Middle East tensions, as they are now, between America and countries in the Middle East was not the greatest. I think around that time, you know, in the late 70s, we have the Iranian hostage crisis, and I'm sure in this period, I'm sure there's a lot of tension between, you know, United States and sort of that part of the world. So I'm not like, I'm just, you know, speculating here, but whether they did that because they're, you know, trying to say, oh, this demon is a demon from an ancient world, from the Middle East, you know, like, but people who don't know any better wouldn't realize that during the ancient civilizations, I don't know, the Babylonians or Sumerians or whoever was in the Middle East in those times, there was no Islam back then, you know? So like, it wouldn't make sense that they're doing this dig from ancient times and then they relate the demon to a religion that is a Judeo-Christian religion that came 600 years after Christianity. It doesn't really make sense. But people who don't know things like that wouldn't know any better, and they will correlate demons with Islam, which, you know, I'll give it a pass. It's the 70s. You're trying to, you know, it's a scary movie. You're trying to stoke fear in people, but I'm hoping that it didn't lead to like, xenophobia. That's what I'm afraid here. And that is outside the story. Like I can look at things like that and sort of analyze it separate from the narrative, because this seems to be more of a directorial choice or writers, that sort of thing was a decision made by some of the creatives while making the movie. It's not really essential to the overall story, I don't think, but that little bit makes it a little bit political. And I know you guys are probably thinking, man, you're reading too much into this, but it's a subliminal hit, man. It's a subliminal message, like put there in there. Like if you are one of those people that are like, you see, fucking Azan, devil, so especially with the heavy sort of the good guys are priests. So like I can see how it can sort of stoke that sort of thinking, but I'm not gonna criticize the movie because of that, because as a film, as a horror film, it's a good movie, and it's a great movie. It's a timeless movie. I'm watching it right now, almost 50 years later. Oh my God. I just wanted to mention that because I thought it was funny. I was like, all right, well, anyway. Yeah, I'm interested in those sort of things. I'm interested in how structure and story can hit people subliminally and implicitly, not just the explicit stuff. So that's why I'm talking about it. I don't mean to insinuate anything. So I apologize if I offended anyone. I don't mean to. Maybe you guys can tell me more about it, and I hope to get proven wrong. I love it when people say I'm wrong, because I learn. At least I'll understand more perspectives, and that's why I do the review videos, just for more discourse. Hey guys, I just wanted to add a little bit. I did look things up a little bit after I did my reaction sort of thing, but the director did say that he said that he added the azan, the call to prayer, at the end in the beginning there, because it's supposed to symbolize goodness in the world. I am a little bit skeptical about that, which, even if that was his intention, a lot of people are reading it as the motif of the demon. I think the demon's name is Pazuzu, and they're sort of reading the azan as his motive, and which also people who know there are sequels to this movie and even the book, so to signify that he is still around. So, and it seems kind of, it seems kind of naive on my part if I thought that, he didn't realize what he was doing by doing that. I didn't realize that sound would act as a motif for the demon. He's a film director, and movie directors, they don't do anything just to do it, and especially movie directors and writers, they know a lot about psychology. They have to, because they have to know how film affects the audience. So it would just seem so sort of naive on their part, which I don't believe it is, to say that, he meant that azan to be sort of an intention or symbolism of goodness. If he did, well then good on him, but that is not, I don't think that's how people would have perceived that at all at the time people were watching that. I just don't think so. And if you were there, or let me know your thoughts on it. I really would love to know your thoughts on this. So yeah, comment below. Just another sort of fun fact, that in the sequel movies and the prequel movie, they actually moved the origin of Pazuzu it moved Pazuzu to the origin of Pazuzu to North Africa, moving it from Iraq to North Africa, which I haven't seen the sequels or anything, so I don't know how that connects, but you know, it's worth mentioning, I think. So overall, I like The Exorcist. I think it's a great study in horror. I think it is something that if you're into horror movies, you have to watch it, because you need to know, you know, your roots, and you need to know the most popular, probably most referenced horror film, supernatural movie that you'll ever see is this. So you have to watch it. If you're not into it, if you're not into supernatural, don't watch, then don't. If you're weak-hearted, don't, because there's some good jump scares in there as well. But overall, for a movie lover or for a horror lover, you have to watch it. I recommend it. And the performances were great, especially Damian's, the guy who played Damian. And yeah, that's all I say about it. I think it's a must watch, really, if you're into movies. So yeah, thanks guys if you made it this far. Thanks for watching. If you want to, you know, ask any questions, I'll reply. And if you have things to say about the movie, particularly with the topics I've discussed in this video, go ahead and comment below. And I assure you I read all my comments. If whether I reply to it or not, I do read all of it, because I'm trying to get rid of all the spams and stuff like that. And I don't get that many comments anyway, so you know, it's fun. All right. I hope you guys enjoyed both the reaction video and this video. And I will see you in the next video. I hope to see you guys in the next video. And remember, until then, easy does it.